In early September of 1939, Southern California experienced a severe heat wave. Temperatures of over 100 degrees were reported on Thursday, September 18th, at the Balboa Fire Station. The heat wave continued for over a week. Schools had just started. However, by Wednesday, September 17th, they were let out again. Even some businesses were shut down. In 1939, air conditioning was practically non-existent. Everyone that could went to the beach to cool off in the ocean. The sun beat down with a hot glare. There was practically no wind. Many people went to Catalina. Others went out day sailing both Saturday and Sunday. On Sunday morning, September 21st, the sun was not beating down quite so hard. There was a slight overcast, but very little, if any, wind. It appeared that the 9-day heat wave was going to end, and it did. Shortly after noon, in a matter of less than 20 minutes, a chubasco, which is a Mexican hurricane, arrived from the southeast with winds holding above 50 knots and gusting to 65 and more. The Sunday sailors cooling off on their boats in the Catalina Channel were suddenly caught off guard. Large ground swells, along with heavy wind chop, compounded by an outgoing tide, made the Newport Harbor entrance very dangerous to navigate. The large ground swells were humping up and breaking from jetty to jetty. Not only was there extensive damage to boats and other property in the Newport area, but also in many other areas along the south-facing beaches. Several boats at Los Angeles Yacht Club were damaged or sunk. The clubhouse itself was washed off its foundation and nearly deposited into Fish Harbor. Windows in the San Pedro Lighthouse were broken out in both the first and second story by the seas and hurricane velocity winds. A small boat up close to the outside of the Los Angeles Harbor breakwater was picked up by a huge wave and washed over the rocks and deposited right side up on the inside of the harbor. Most of what you are about to see was taken with a 16mm amateur movie camera from the East Jetty, the Corona del Mar side of the Newport Harbor entrance. The film was kept safely by Mr. Al Adams, a well-known Southern California sailor for over 50 years. In 1991, he made it available to the Newport Harbor Nautical Museum. It was that film that forms the base for this video. The first scene shows the seas that are coming into the jettyway, and in a moment you will see boats trying to get in out of the storm. Look at the fishing boat coming in. You can see by the smoke off her stack that is parallel to the horizon, which gives an indication of the velocity of the wind. This is the Stella Maris. As you will see in a moment, she is exceeding her own hull speed, going as fast as she is ever likely to go. I say is because she is now a cutter, still in Newport Harbor and raced actively. She was built in 1936 by the original owner, Dr. Archie Steele of Los Angeles. Look closely here and you will see a small boat with 3 people aboard about to capsize. There it goes over. This boat is coming alongside to get people out of the water from that small boat. We believe that it is the Blue Water skippered by Pat Dunn. The harbor department is going to arrive in a moment in a speedboat. There's a lot of confusion. This sailboat is coming in and is caught by a following sea. She's thrown to the west and just missed the boat trying to make the rescue. Here you see her on the far side, thrown about halfway across the jetty. Harbor boat was being operated by Dave Gogarty, assistant harbor master at the time. Not exactly what you would pick for the perfect rescue vessel. The cruiser, Blue Water, is caught broadside by a wave. Notice how deep the trough is as she goes out of sight. Now the boats are attempting to get the people out of the water. There, the boats are out of sight again. Here is an overloaded fishing boat coming in, a half-day boat. The Coast Guard took a good look at the number of people being carried on these boats, and new regulations were shortly thereafter adopted regarding the number of people a commercial boat could carry. The two young men on the surfboards are John Lugo and Ralph Dawson. They were surfing when the real trouble started. It turned out that they were real heroes, as you will see in a minute. Now, quickly, watch. The second boat has just capsized. She was the Jolly Tom, a 34-foot wheeler cabin cruiser. You can see now an occupant has gotten out of the boat and is sitting on top of the keel. The boys are going out on their boards to help. One of the fellows on the Jolly Tom slid down the keel and was badly cut by the propeller. 8 of the 9 people aboard were rescued by the 2 young men on the surfboards. One drowned, Dorothy Sterling of Burbank. Her body was recovered by Ben Weston. This is what is left of the boat that capsized, a total loss. Here we see another overloaded fishing boat coming in. Watch them drop out of sight. All up and down the coast, many interesting stories came out of this experience. One such concerns Mr. Porter Sinclair, the founder of the original Newport Marine Hardware store and a well-known yachtsman in this area. He was sailing in Catalina Channel. It was thought for a time that he had been lost at sea, not having been heard from for about 3 days. He prudently decided that rather than attempt to make the harbor entrance, he would run off with the southeasterly. He ran all the way to the Channel Islands off Santa Barbara, 100+ miles. When the storm subsided, he calmly sailed back to Newport. Here's a powerboat coming in. It gets caught by a following sea and goes out of control. He's surfing, going too fast. The helmsman momentarily loses control of the boat, which is nearly thrown up on the rocks. Apparently reverses his engine, gets her stopped, and the next sea piled in where he was. That's a close call. This is the playground area of the Newport Jetty. Blasts of 65 knots made it difficult to hold the camera. These are the young men, John Lugo and Ralph Dawson, who did the rescue work. It was thought for years that they had received medals for their heroism. In fact, it never happened. Too bad, they were certainly deserving. Pat Dunn of the Blue Water also should have been recognized. One of the most talked about events of the storm was the near tragedy of the Paragon. She was a 140-foot twin diesel yacht owned by Mr. William Bartholomew. She had taken a group of 16 guests and 8 crewmen to Catalina for the weekend. About 8 o'clock Sunday night, when the hurricane was almost at its height, the running lights of the Paragon were observed coming along the coast headed for the harbor entrance. Surely the Paragon would not try to come in, but in she came. On arriving off the harbor entrance, Captain Brown, the licensed officer in charge of the ship, refused to bring her in. Mr. Bartholomew, a very determined and authoritative personality, to say the least, took the wheel from Captain Brown and started in. Paragon surfed down a large groundswell, went out of control, and the port quarter hit the end of the west jetty and rolled back into the clear. The chief engineer ran below, put the engines full ahead, came out, dogged down all the hatches, trying to make an air bubble out of the inside of the hull. It was said that they were looking down on the lighthouses they came through. If Paragon had fetched up permanently at the end of the jetty, all hands would have been lost, and no rescue effort could possibly have been mounted. Paragon sounded her air horn every 10 seconds, the international distress signal, and came in at full speed. Mr. Bartholomew ran the bow up onto the sandy beach where Balboa Boulevard and Channel Road meet. The public pier had not as yet been built. She remained there for several weeks while efforts were made to save her. Various methods were tried without success. Finally, a pair of large crane barges were towed to the scene from San Pedro. They succeeded in lifting the Paragon free, and she was towed very slowly to San Pedro and dry dock, where repairs were completed. At the onset of World War II, she was drafted by the Navy, fitted with a deck gun and depth charges, and sent out as a patrol vessel. She ended her days, believe it or not, hauling bananas from Central America to Southern California until she ran aground in Mexico, and this time was a total loss. When nature runs amok, someone has to be blamed, and guess who it was in 1939? Of course, the Weather Service.